Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Munatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramaham Ajika Stota Vishota Shri Srimati Divine Grace of Bhaichara Never Amishila Pada. Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhāgavatam, first canto, chapter number 4, the appearance of Sri Narada, text number 2. Shonaka Uvacha Sutta Sutta Mahabhaga Vada no Vadatam Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Chuka Sutta Sutta Mahabhaga Vada no Vadatam Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Chuka Sutta Sutta Mahabhaga Vada no Vadatang Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Chuka. Bhagavatam Punyam Bhagavan Shaka Shonaka Uvacha Sutta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Bhagavan Shaka Shonaka Uvacha Sutta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Bhagavan Shaka Shonaka Uvacha Sid Sutta Goswami Mahabhaga, the most fortunate. Vada, please speak. Na, unto us. Vadatam, of those who can speak. Vada, respected. Vatam, message. Bhagavatim, of the Bhagavatam. Punyam, pious. Yat, which. Aha, said. Bhagavan, greatly powerful. Shuka, Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shonaka said, O Sutta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhāgavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami. Purport. Sutta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shonaka Goswami out of great joy, because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhāgavatam uttered by Shukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who would interpret it in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists twist some meanings out of the Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views, and the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to mis-explain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Shukadeva Goswami. And only those who are prepared to hear Shukadeva Goswami and his representative are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhāgavatam. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kam karoti vachalam pangum langayate garim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the deliverer of all fallen souls, whose mercy turns the dumb into eloquent speakers and enables the lame to cross mountains. Translation again. Shonaka said, O Sutta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhāgavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami. Srila Prabhupada one time, he famously said that when he was asked by one disciple who wanted to know something about Vedic technology, to this disciple they were thinking that, I want to hear something about Vimanas or something like this. And Prabhupada famously said, Vedic technology means parampara. So this is actually the real technology that by which transcendental knowledge can be received. And particularly those of us coming from Western academic education, this idea that who we hear from is important sounds a little bit strange. And the idea is that it doesn't matter who you hear from, what their behavior is like, what their activities are like, what their character is like. The only thing is what knowledge they have in their head. But the amazing thing is you can hear Srimad Bhāgavatam from someone who has all of the academic knowledge, all of the book knowledge, but their character is very low, and the potency won't be there. The ability to actually transform the heart will not be there. Like even in India or in the West is also, apparently there are scholars who, they know the Chaitanya Charitamrita better than any of us probably. They know all of the pastimes, they know all of the details. But then they just go and smoke cigarette and then drink wine and do all sorts of abominable things. They may seem to have some knowledge, but then how is that knowledge playing out in their actual life? So I was thinking of, here we're hearing about Sutta Goswami. There's a Ugrashrava Sutta, who was the son of Ramaharshana Sutta. Ramaharshana Sutta was, of course, famous for, he was killed by Lord Balaram with a blade of grass, right? Because he disrespected Lord Balaram simply by not offering respect when he came into the assembly. Seemingly quite a small offense, but actually it was serious. And then when the sages, they said, you shouldn't really kill a great brahmana like this, he gave the benediction that his son would be able to. He killed his father, Ramaharshana Sutta, and then the son is Ugrashrava Sutta, who's here in the assembly, the sages. So we can see this principle of respect is very crucial, respect of the spiritual master, respect of the senior devotees. And the other example in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this devotee, Minaketana Ramdas, who's a devotee of Lord Nityananda. And the priest on the altar, Guru Narnava Mishra, he doesn't offer respect to him when he comes. And this devotee, he was a little bit unusual. He would jump on others' shoulders, right, and play like a cowherd boy and things like that. He was a little bit eccentric, you might say. But he wasn't offered respect by this pujari who was on the altar. You might think, oh, what's the problem? He's doing his puja, he's on the altar. But he didn't offer respect. And Minaketana Ramdas, he was very upset. And not for his own sake, not for his own pride, but because he saw that the mentality of this priest was he didn't properly respect Lord Nityananda. And so actually this is because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother sided with this priest. He actually fell down from his position. So in this context, the message was about one should not worship Lord Chaitanya without worshipping Lord Nityananda, or worship Lord Nityananda without worshipping Lord Chaitanya. Both go together. You cannot have one without the other. The two brothers dancing here on the altar, Krishna Balaram. So the most important thing in one sense is who we hear from. Of course, Bhagavad Gita is explained very simply. The famous verse, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadarshana. That we have to render service and inquire submissively from the spiritual master in order for the hearing process to be effective. You can't just hear and then just do anything and everything, but the right attitude has to be there. And you see this even in the narrative between Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna, he says, Idam tu te guyatamam pravakshyam yanasuya vijnana vijnana sahitam yajgatva mokshashe shubat. Because you were not envious of me, now I can narrate to you this most auspicious narration of Bhagavad Gita. This is the qualification, not to be envious. So what happens if you hear from someone who's envious? Prabhupada would give this example of milk touched by the lips of a serpent. Milk is very pure and relishable and delicious. Of course, while we're in India, where we have a lot more milk than we normally have in the West, and a lot more milk sweets and so many nice preparations, sweet rice. But if the milk is, well, if the milk is, it's not touched by the milk. Yeah, if the milk is touched by the lips of a serpent, then it becomes poisonous. Even though it may seem to be, it may still taste nice, it may still seem very tasty, but then the effect will be poisonous. We were hearing yesterday from one devotee here, Amoghleela Prabhu, who's quite famous in India, very famous Indian preacher, and he was telling us over lunch that apparently he used to do these videos criticizing like Sadhguru and Vivekananda, and he got a lot of criticism on the internet because he was criticizing these basically impersonalist type personalities, or people like Sadhguru who you don't even know what they're actually saying, but they speak very nicely. It seems like there's some. He was saying that there's Sadhguru, he has a silver tongue, and whatever he says sounds very nice. It sounds very pleasing, but actually there's no real substance there. He doesn't reference Shastra. It's not even really clear what he actually believes, whether he's an impersonalist or whether he's this or he's that. You can't even tell. And so Prabhupada was just totally merciless in knocking down these nonsense persons also. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatchadeshatarane. He was removing the impersonalism and the voidism. And of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur as well, as we were hearing on his appearance day recently. He was very fiery personality, very strong. And he would just say that so many people were rascals. He would criticize so much, and people would think, how is this person a sadhu? He's just criticizing, he's angry. But this was his ecstasy. Apasadanta Dvanta Harane. In Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur's pranam mantras, that's there. He was destroying anything that was against the conclusion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, any kind of apasampradaya, to establish what is really love of God. Because the tendency in this material world is kala nehe mahata yoga nashta parantapa, that if things diminish over time, they become corrupted, they become destroyed. The original pure message is there, but gradually it gets corrupted. Gradually it becomes impure, exactly. Because most of us aren't so pure as Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, so very easy for us to try and present the message of Lord Chaitanya, of Lord Krishna, but then it becomes contaminated by our own impure motives. Even in a subtle way, it can happen like that, gradually over time. This is why parampara is so important, sticking to the words of the great souls who are coming in parampara, who are perfectly representing their spiritual master. Otherwise, we're basically presenting, if we want to be independent, we're saying that I'm my own spiritual master. But am I really qualified to be anyone's spiritual master, or to speak of? Yeah, and we become bound more and more. So like we're hearing here, some impersonalists, they twist some meanings out of the Bhāgavatam to suit and support impersonalist views. Like Prabhupada would say, there's this mantra, Tattvam Asi, that they would take out of the Vedas. And they'd say, this is the Mahavakya, this is the main statement of the Vedas. But actually it's just a side point, and they interpret in their own way to say that, oh, I am that, I am the Supreme. But then they ignore so many other statements in the Vedas to the contrary. Or they might just go straight to the 10th canto to misexplain the confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Or in all these philosophies actually, whether it's impersonalism, whether it's voidism, atheism, or what the scientists may present of physicalism, the idea everything is matter, they're all just different manifestations of envy of Krishna actually. And they may be presented in very scholarly terms. Like the real Mayavadis actually, some of them very scholarly, they're very learned in their own way, but they're just expert in word jugglery. They can make your head actually spin. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada quotes Sanatana Goswami as saying, actually the words of a great Mayavadi, they can change even the mind of a Mahabhagavat. It's so dangerous and so poisonous, because the undercurrent is this envy of Krishna. I just want Krishna out of the picture so I can enjoy, so I can do my thing, so I can be the center of the universe. So whatever else may seem to be there, all of the learning, so-called scholarship, behind it all is just this principle that I want to be the controller, I want to be the enjoyer. I don't want to bow down before anyone. I don't want to submit before anyone else's will. But we hear right in the beginning of Srimad Bhāgavatam, that one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Tvam nasan dashito datra dushtitam nishtiteshitam alim sattva harapam samkana dana ivanadaram. The sages, they're saying that we accept you, Sutta Goswami, as the captain of the ship so we can cross over this difficult ocean of the age of Kali. And this is the only way you can do that, actually, to grab onto the feet of these great souls and to hear from the proper source. The Prabhu yesterday was also explaining in India now there are so many different speakers of Katha. And he was saying that some of them actually not so bad, some of them actually quite good. They present some good Krishna Katha, although not so nice philosophy, he would say generally, usually just the pastimes. And he'd say that many of them actually they may be from different Vaishnava Sampradaya, but they have good behavior, they're good devotees in their own lineage. But not so much philosophy generally, he was saying, and not getting the full package like what Prabhupada is giving. But then, of course, there are so many others who are just envious. And then they're speaking, seemingly, they speak very nicely, Krishna Katha, the pastimes. Yeah, for a business. And this is actually very poisonous. So for speaking for myself, it's, there may be so many people we could hear from, but I try to follow my spiritual master and his instruction to stick very close to Srila Prabhupada's books as the main meal. Because we can read so many things and hear so many things, and there may be many bona fide books by Prabhupada's disciples or like that. But if we have this as our main sustenance, Prabhupada said his books are meant to be the law books for the next 10,000 years, for this Kali Yuga. If we want to become expert lawyer, we want to become expert devotee, we study the law books. Like I used to actually read the Prabhupada's books at the law school library in New Zealand, in Wellington, every day because it was close to where I was working at the time. I told my Guru Maharaj that, every day I go here and I read for 1 hour, 2 hours at the law school. And he said, oh, they have Bhāgavatam at the law school. And I said, no, Guru Maharaj. And he said, oh, well, you have the real law book. The other students studying the different law books. One time I had a look at some of these books. They're very boring. They're like just page after page of this different law, subsection B, clause A, goes on. There are 40,000 different subclauses of this book. So many books. Very, very boring, actually. But if you want to be a real lawyer, you have to study the real law book. You have to go through page by page. For us, we just study Srimad Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said studying those 4 books is sufficient to preach over the whole world. Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Those are the essentials, the essential 4 books for us to read. Prabhupada's made it very easy for us, and I also liked what Sachinandana Maharaj was saying the other day when one devotee was asking about hearing from other places, Indian-bodied Prabhu. And he said that for the child, it's always the mother's milk that's the most nourishing. So for us, the mother's milk is hearing from our spiritual master and from Srila Prabhupada. He was saying there may be other places. He's saying also that the mother may appoint a nurse to feed the child. So then spiritual master may say, yes, you go hear from this authorized person, from this person, and that's also okay. But at the same time, mother's milk is always best. And if you just go anywhere and everywhere and just take the milk from anywhere and everywhere, you may not know what you're getting. You may think, this tastes okay, it seems fine, no problem. But it's mixed with something that's not so favorable, some subtle envy of Krishna. That's and in a sense, there's never any harm, and at least that's my personal approach and what my spiritual masters encourage. Stick very close to Srila Prabhupada and stay very close to what he's presenting in his books, and you can't go wrong. It's very safe. And hearing from the spiritual master, hearing from those who the spiritual master says we can also hear from. There's so many great sadhus within ISKCON. Sometimes devotees, they think I have to go somewhere else to get more advanced knowledge, so I'll go to Radhakund and hear from some Baba there. He'll tell me what my spiritual form is, give me Siddha Pranali Diksha, something like that. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I like what he said, that actually you'll realize all of that. You'll realize your spiritual form in the kirtan. He said that's the real Siddha Pranali will happen during the kirtan, if you're hearing from the right source. Those are just a few thoughts from the verse today. I wasn't so prepared to give a class, a little bit tired and slightly sick today, but thank you for your kind attention. If you've from Das Prabhu or has any comment, question? Prabhu always has the best comments and oh, Prabhu. Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, basically they were, yes, it's near the end, around chapter 78 or something like that. Yeah, it's in Krishna books and Srimad Bhāgavatam. I think the chapter is called The Killing of Dantavakra, Vidurata, and Ramaharshana. So that's when Balaram was on pilgrimage, right? He was traveling, or he went on pilgrimage after. Yeah, he didn't want to fight in Battle of Kurukshetra because he was partial to both. Yeah, he was partial to Duryodhana, but also to others in the battle. So he didn't want to fight. He went on pilgrimage. He goes, yeah. Yeah, he came to where they were. Yeah. Yeah. Ramaharshana Sutta, yeah. He was the head of the assembly and he was maybe speaking some kata or something. And then he didn't offer obeisance. Everyone else, they offered their obeisances to Lord Balarama for their respects. But he didn't offer respects. This is a Ramaharshana Sutta. They didn't offer respects to Lord Balaram when Balaram arrived. He was the father of Ugrashrava Sutta, who's speaking here. The father of, this is Sutta Goswami here, Ugrashrava Sutta in Bhāgavatam, first canto, speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. His father is Ramaharshana Sutta. So Ramaharshana Sutta was speaking. Yeah, he was speaking. And he didn't offer obeisances to Lord Balaram when Lord Balaram arrived. Everyone else offered respects. But he was on the Vyasasana and he thought, oh, I don't need to offer respects. But then Lord Balaram took that as improper. It was an offense to Lord Balaram. Yeah, he took the blade of grass and then it's quite inconceivable. I don't know how you kill someone with a blade of grass, but Lord Balaram can do it. So it must have been moving very fast, this blade of grass. He killed Ramaharshana Sutta. But the sages, they were saying, this is not good, you should not kill a brahmana. They said, we know that you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this is bad example. So you should kill this demon. What was the demon's name? Balvala, that's right. Yeah, he killed this. He said, you should kill this demon, Balvala. He's causing so much trouble, desecrating places of sacrifice. So he said that you should travel here to atone. And he also gave the benediction because they also said they'd given the sage Ramaharshana some benediction, right? That he would have a long life. Ramaharshana Sutta. And they said, oh, we told him he would have a long life, but now you've killed him. So what is this? Our benediction should be preserved. Oh, he already had the benediction earlier from the other sages that he would live a long life. But then Balaram killed him. And so the sages said to Lord Balaram, well, how can you kill him? We said he would have long life. And they transferred the benediction to the son, to Ugrashrava Sutta, who's speaking here to the sages of Naimisharanya. So then he would have a long life, and then he became the speaker of Srimad Bhāgavatam, because he was present hearing from Shukadev Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the son is Ugrashrava Sutta, different sutta. Yeah, so that's the... Yeah. Yeah, Balaram is the Adi Guru. Everyone should offer respect to Lord Balaram. Right. Maybe there. I know Nectar of Devotion also says that one doesn't bow down and Yeah, well, Balaram is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Vishnu Tattva. Also says in Nectar of Devotion that you don't bow down towards someone in front of the deity, but we still, seems like my understanding is if we see the spiritual master or sannyasi, senior devotee, we bow down. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. I mean, Nectar of Devotion says we should bow down to anyone who's taken initiation. Dikshasti chet pranati bishcha badantamisham. So we should have this mood at least of offering obeisances internally or externally. And yes, certainly for senior devotees, to sannyasis, that's the etiquette. Mm. One day fast. In Mayapur, so many sannyasis when we visit usually, so it's like you have to be careful. In Vrindavan also, yeah, so many sannyasis. Do you have any comment on that, Prabhu? Or? Mm. Mm. Interesting. Mm. 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 What he was speaking. Mm. Mm. Right. Mm. Mm. Right. Mm. Mm. Good point. Mm. 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 Good example. Yeah, this Janitari Tamrita, especially the Adu Leela, chapter 7, has all of the arguments you ever need to hear to deprogram yourself from impersonalism. Ramdas Prabhu gave me a copy, the Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. This chapter is a separate volume. And still haven't read it 100 times, but a few times, maybe 7, 8 times. So much in there. In the West, actually, there are not so many real like scholarly Mayavadis. Like very rare that we meet someone who's actually very scholarly. Mostly people, we call them popular Mayavadis or pop Mayavadis. They just say, oh, everything is one. I am everything. I, that's very common. But then actually meeting those who are really philosophical, very rare. Actually, our Guru Maharaj said that you might meet someone like that once in your lifetime. And then you need to go to Adi Leela chapter 7 and get the arguments from Srila Prabhupada. But most of the time, it's just in the West, people just speak nonsense like that. Oh, I am everything is one. I am everything. I am the supreme. But they don't have any philosophy. I don't know what it's like in India, Somya Prabhu, but maybe some more scholarly Mayavadis here. But in any case, Prabhupada's giving us everything we need to immunize ourselves, to protect ourselves, and to, when if necessary, defeat others. Stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Already.
Motion?